A warning tonight from a couple of pet owners. They say they lost their beloved dogs after they ate a brand of fresh dog food.
Mars Corporation owns your dog's health, and they don't want you to know it. This massive company controls more pet food brands than you realize, using one disturbing ingredient across almost all of them. The scariest part? They've convinced millions of dog parents it's actually good for their pets. Look, I've been feeding dogs for over 20 years, and if I had $1 for every time someone told me Purina was good enough, I'd own my own kibble factory by now. Here's the thing, though. Just because your grandmother used it doesn't mean it's actually feeding your dog properly. Purina dominates American pet stores like that one relative who talks loudest at family dinners. But here's what they don't want you reading on those tiny ingredient labels. Corn, wheat, and mysterious byproducts make up most of their recipes. What exactly is a byproduct? Well, let's just say it's the stuff that didn't make it into human food for very good reasons. The real kicker? Those artificial flavors and colors aren't there for your dog. They're there to trick you into thinking Rover's getting a meaty feast. Dogs don't care if their food looks like tiny steaks or rainbow pebbles. Then there's BHA and BHT lurking in many formulas. These preservatives keep the kibble fresh longer than some marriages last, but they're also linked to health problems down the road. Your dog deserves better than high-carb junk that leads to obesity and digestive nightmares. Speaking of misleading marketing, wait until you hear what Pedigree's been pulling. Well, if Purina is the mass-market monster, then Pedigree is its budget cousin that somehow got even worse. You know those colorful commercials with happy dogs? Yeah, they're not showing you the ingredient list. Here's where it gets absurd. Pedigree's wet food contains only 4% actual meat. 4? The rest? Nearly 50% cereals and fillers that your dog's stomach wasn't designed to handle. It's like serving your kid a happy meal and calling it a balanced dinner. But wait, it gets funnier. Those meaty chunks your dog goes crazy for? Artificial flavors doing all the heavy lifting. The smell, the taste, it's basically dog food theater. Meanwhile, those cans are mostly water, so Fido feels full without getting any real nutrition. The marketing budget for Pedigree could probably feed a small country's worth of dogs actual meat. Celebrity endorsements, heartwarming TV spots, the whole 9 yards, all designed to distract you from reading that ingredient panel. And here's the kicker. Dogs fed this stuff long-term often develop obesity and diabetes. Makes sense, right? Feed low-quality carbs. Get low-quality health outcomes. Then there's another brand that's even more sneaky about this whole charade. Here's something that'll make your blood boil. Walk into any vet's office and guess what they're pushing? Hill's Prescription Diet. Your trusted veterinarian, the person you rely on for honest medical advice, is basically running a side hustle selling overpriced kibble. But here's where it gets sketchy. These prescription diets aren't actually prescription medications. They're just regular dog food, with fancier packaging and a markup that would make a used car salesman blush. The first few ingredients, often corn, wheat, and something called chicken byproduct meal, which sounds about as appetizing as it is. Your vet gets a nice cut from every bag sold. Makes sense, right? They're not just healing your dog. They're making bank on the food, too. It's like your doctor owning the pharmacy and recommending the most expensive aspirin. The real kicker? Many dogs stay on these diets forever, without anyone addressing why Fluffy got sick in the first place. Sugar beet pulp bulks up the food, but your dog's getting about as much nutrition as eating cardboard with gravy. Well, the prescription diet trap is just one piece of this puzzle. The next brand we're covering actually fooled millions of pet owners with one simple word: Royal Canin markets itself like the Ferrari of dog food. Premium packaging, breed-specific formulas, and prices that make your wallet weep. But here's the kicker. You're paying Lamborghini prices for a Honda Civic engine. Check those fancy labels closely. The first ingredients? Wheat, corn, and something called animal fat. That's like ordering a ribeye steak and getting a hamburger helper instead. Your golden retriever doesn't need a formula specifically designed for golden retrievers. That's marketing genius, not nutritional science. But wait, it gets better. They've convinced pet owners that a Chihuahua needs completely different food than a German Shepherd. Really? Both are dogs with identical digestive systems. It's like saying short people need different vitamins than tall people. The preservatives keep this stuff shelf-stable longer than a Twinkie. Meanwhile, your athletic dog is burning through low-quality protein faster than a teenager goes through pizza money. Active breeds especially get short-changed. They need real meat for sustained energy, not wheat dressed up in a fancy bag. You're essentially buying designer cereal for carnivores. The premium price tag funds brilliant marketing campaigns, not better nutrition. Your dog would be happier with actual chicken than Royal Canin's interpretation of what chicken should taste like. Speaking of misleading natural claims, though, Blue Buffalo loves slapping natural labels on everything like it's some kind of magical ingredient fairy dust. Walk down any pet store aisle and their packaging screams wholesome goodness with pictures of happy dogs frolicking through meadows. But here's the kicker. Many of their formulas still pack chicken byproduct meal as a primary ingredient. That's about as natural as my Uncle Bob's toupee, and trust me, that thing's been fooling nobody since 1987. The marketing department works overtime convincing pet parents they're feeding premium nutrition. Meanwhile, rice and other fillers bulk up the kibble faster than a tourist at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Makes sense, right? Then there's the recall history that somehow gets swept under the rug. Contaminated batches have popped up more often than a jack-in-the-box, raising serious safety red flags. Yet the natural branding continues like nothing happened. Well, here's what really gets me fired up. Blue Buffalo charges premium prices for what's essentially dressed-up mediocrity. Those beautiful wolves on the packaging? They'd probably turn their noses up at this processed mess. The weird part is how many dog owners fall for the marketing magic while their pups still struggle with the same digestive issues and low energy. But speaking of premium prices for questionable quality, IAMS wants you to believe they're feeding your dog quality nutrition at a reasonable price. Well, that's like saying a gas station hot dog is fine dining because it has mustard on top. Here's what really happens behind those cheerful commercials. The first few ingredients? Chicken byproduct meal, ground whole grain corn, and chicken fat. Byproduct meal sounds fancy, but it's basically the leftover bits after all the good meat gets taken out. Beaks, feet, organs. You know, the stuff your dog's wild ancestors totally avoided. Right? But here's the kicker. IAMS processes everything so heavily that even the decent protein becomes harder for your dog to actually use. It's like trying to get nutrition from cardboard that's been painted to look like steak. Then there's the synthetic preservative cocktail. BHA, BHT, ethoxyquin, chemicals that keep the kibble fresh for months but might be slowly messing with your dog's liver. My neighbor's been feeding IAMS for years, wondering why his golden retriever needs 3 cups just to stay satisfied. The cruel irony? You end up feeding more volume because the nutrition is so watered down. That budget-friendly bag suddenly costs more per month than you planned. Speaking of misleading marketing, wait until you hear about our next brand's creative approach to ingredient lists. Here's the thing about Nutro. that drives me absolutely crazy. They position themselves as the responsible choice. You know, better than the grocery store junk, but not quite premium pricing. It's like buying a used car from your neighbor's cousin who totally knows about cars. The marketing screams wholesome nutrition, but flip that bag around and you'll spot chicken byproduct meal hanging out in the ingredient list like an uninvited party guest. Then there's rice, wheat, and other grain-based fillers padding out the formula. Your dog's digestive system is basically working overtime to process ingredients that belong in a bread factory, not a food bowl. But here's where it gets sneaky. Nutro uses just enough quality ingredients to justify charging more than pedigree, while still cutting corners where they think you won't notice. It's the nutritional equivalent of putting premium gas in a car that's leaking oil. The protein content looks decent on paper, but when half of it comes from mysterious meal sources, your dog isn't getting the muscle-building nutrition they actually need. You're paying extra for fancy packaging and feel-good marketing copy. Well, speaking of misleading marketing, wait until you hear about Beneful's rainbow-colored disaster. Beneful looks innocent enough sitting on the supermarket shelf, right? Wrong. This brand has mastered the art of making junk food look healthy, like putting a salad sticker on a donut. The first three ingredients: corn, wheat, and soy. That's basically feeding your dog breakfast cereal for dinner every night. Your golden retriever isn't a farm animal, but Beneful seems to think otherwise. But here's where it gets sneaky. They plaster nutrient-rich all over the packaging while stuffing the kibble with artificial colors that would make a rainbow jealous. Those pretty red and green bits? Pure marketing magic. Dogs see about as many colors as your grandfather without his glasses. The artificial flavors are the real kicker, though. They spray these kibbles with meat flavor to fool your dog's nose. It's like putting bacon cologne on a cardboard box and calling it breakfast. Many dogs eating Beneful long-term end up with digestive issues that'll have you cleaning more messes than a janitor at a daycare center. The high-carb content packs on pounds faster than holiday cookies. The worst part? Beneful banks on nostalgic commercials and grocery store convenience to keep selling. They're counting on busy pet parents grabbing whatever's available. Speaking of counting on convenience, wait until you hear about our next culprit. Remember when dog food commercials made kibble look like a rainbow buffet? Well, Kibbles and Bits turned that fantasy into reality, and not in a good way. Those bright red, yellow, and green pieces aren't there for your dog's entertainment. Dogs see color differently than we do. It's like putting glitter on a hamburger to make it fancy. Completely pointless, but somehow convincing to humans. Here's the kicker. Actual meat makes up such a tiny portion that you'd need a magnifying glass to find it. The first few ingredients: corn, wheat, and something called meat and bone meal. Sounds appetizing, right? That's like calling mystery cafeteria meat premium dining. But wait, there's more weirdness. The artificial colors that make this food look like a party mix? They can trigger allergies and hyperactivity in sensitive dogs. Your pup might be bouncing off the walls, literally. The worst part isn't just the low quality. Dogs eating this stuff often need twice the recommended serving size to feel full, because there's so little actual nutrition. You think you're saving money buying cheap food, but you're feeding your dog twice as much junk. Makes you wonder what happens when massive corporations own multiple different brands, doesn't it? You know what's really sneaky? When one massive corporation owns half the dog food aisle, and you don't even realize it. Well, meet Mars Pet Care, the candy bar company that somehow ended up controlling what your dog eats. These guys own Pedigree, Nutro, Caesar, Whiskas, and about 20 other brands you've probably bought. It's like finding out your neighborhood has 5 different pizza shops, but they're all run by the same guy using the same frozen dough. Different boxes, same disappointing ingredients. Here's the kicker. Switch from Pedigree to Nutro. Thinking you're upgrading? Nope. Same manufacturing facilities, same corn-heavy recipes, same byproduct shortcuts. The only thing that changes is how much you're paying and what the marketing team wrote on the package. Mars has perfected the art of making dog owners think they have choices. Premium line for the fancy folks, budget line for penny pinchers, and natural lines for health-conscious owners. But peek behind the curtain? It's basically the same nutritional theater with different ticket prices. Your dog doesn't care about the packaging psychology. They just want real nutrition. Makes sense, right? But here's what gets really interesting. Some brands actually put your dog's health first instead of shareholder profits. Finally, a breath of fresh air. Taste of the Wild actually puts real meat where it belongs, right at the top of their ingredient list. No more squinting at labels trying to figure out what poultry byproduct meal actually means. Here's what makes them different. Their grain-free formulas cut out all that unnecessary corn and wheat padding that's been clogging up your dog's system. It's like switching from eating cardboard cereal to actual breakfast. Your dog's digestive system will thank you. But wait, there's more good news. Instead of those sketchy chemical preservatives we've been talking about, they use natural antioxidants. Think of it as the difference between preserving food with formaldehyde versus using salt and herbs. One keeps things fresh naturally, the other, well, let's just say you wouldn't want either in your dinner. The protein content? Actually usable this time. Dogs eating Taste of the Wild typically show better energy levels, shinier coats, and fewer bathroom emergencies. Makes sense, right? They even do third-party testing, which means someone besides their own employees checks if the food is actually safe. Revolutionary concept in the pet food world. Now, if you think Taste of the Wild sounds impressive, buckle up. The next brand we're covering makes them look like beginners when it comes to premium nutrition. Now, after roasting 10 brands that treat your dog like a garbage disposal, let's talk about something that'll make your wallet cry, but your dog dance with joy. Origin. This isn't your typical pet store kibble. These folks basically took a Wolf's dinner menu and made it into dog food. We're talking 75 to 80% meat content, and not mystery meat either. Fresh chicken, turkey, fish, eggs. The good stuff your grandmother would actually recognize. Here's where it gets interesting. Most dog foods are like junk food disguised as dinner. Origin? It's more like a 5-star restaurant decided to cater exclusively to dogs. They use something called biologically appropriate nutrition, which is a fancy way of saying they actually remembered dogs are carnivores, not corn-eating machines. The ingredient list reads like a hunter's paradise. Wild-caught fish, free-run poultry, ranch-raised beef. Makes sense, right? Your dog's ancestors weren't exactly browsing the grain aisle at prehistoric supermarkets. But here's the kicker. This premium nutrition comes with a premium price tag. Think of it as trading your Honda for a Mercedes. Same basic function, completely different experience. Independent reviewers consistently rank Origin at the top. When food critics who test dog food for a living agree on something, you should probably listen.